This is Paul, and his YouTube channel is called Paul in the Philippines. Old Dog New Tricks. I will put a link to his video in the description below. I have watched many of his videos, and he says some very good stuff. In this video, Paul explains what an average man wants from life. And it is what many women also want. I will let him tell his story. However, Paul does not talk about what made him marry his first wife. Which was the wrong person. I do not think Paul realized what made him marry her. I did not say why. I said what. Why and what are not the same things. But it is the same reason why many men marry the wrong person. I will explain after you hear what he has to say.
I had a very dysfunctional and uncomfortable and somewhat painful childhood. I'll spare you the details, but to say it was ugly is pretty much on the spot. And I think as I grew out of that, obviously, and got on my own in my 20s and my 30s, what I really decided that I wanted was a second chance at having a house filled with a lack of ugliness, with a lack of dissension and stress and constant upheavals and walking on pins and needles or eggshells. And I just really said, you know what, I just want to have a normal life. I just want to have a little house somewhere with a good woman and maybe some kids and a couple of dogs. And it doesn't have to be a millionaire lifestyle, but I would like to have a good job, and I would like to be able to provide for the family. And then when I come home, I'd like it to be joyful. I would like it to be happy. I would like there to be a companionship where me and my wife or significant other, we had each other's back. We had the same goals. We had the same desires. Are we going to get along all the time? No. Are there going to be ups and downs? Yes. But we'll go through them together and hopefully find someone that can laugh at the problem, or at least grin and bear it and not let it take us all the way down. Just get through it, do our best to be grateful for what we have, and then again, just try to have a light attitude throughout the house. Well, that didn't happen. When I got married, it was back to childhood 101. We were at each other's throats, and all this ugliness was going on. I won't bore you with all the gory details. You know the drill. Those days were over, and then it came time for me to retire, and I bugged over here to the Philippines because it was the most viable option for me financially. Again, I won't bore you with things that I've said in previous videos. Just take my word for it. This was the way to go if I didn't want to work anymore, and I didn't. As I look around today, here I am, and I'm living in my little house, and I've got my wife, my life partner, and I've even got 2 little dogs, no kids, and the difference between the childhood and the difference between the marriage is that this is a house that's truly filled with laughter and good times. And there's very, very little contention between myself and my wife. So I can't say that moving over here to the Philippines, although I accomplished my economic goals and I accomplished some of the boundaries that I set for myself, I got the bonus of the contentment, the happiness, and the joy that I'd always longed for. So at the end of the day, I never really changed. I feel that I just finally came full circle to what it was that I'd always wanted.
Back in the 1970s. This is the street where I grew up, and it is all black. In fact, this town is called Park Forest, and it is an all-black town in the United States. It is located about 30 miles south of Chicago. This street is where I grew up, and it has all custom-built homes. But the rest of Park Forest mostly has 3 bedrooms, 1 bath starter homes. The last time I checked, which was about 10 years ago, the starter homes cost between $30,000 and $50,000 United States dollars. Park Forest is still a very safe place. And, back in the 1970s, it was so safe that people would go on vacation, for 2 weeks, and leave the doors unlocked and the windows open. Now to what Paul said in the video. Paul said that he grew up in a dysfunctional or in an abusive home. This is common for many people in the United States. And like with Paul, when many men become adults, they are not trying to become rich or famous. We just want to be happy. And this means a happy home with a good woman. So one would think that this would be very simple and easy to achieve. So why do many men marry the wrong woman? Back in the 1980s, I had a friend who was getting her doctorate in psychology. She told me that many people who grew up in a dysfunctional or in an abusive home develop the same types of survival tactics. This survival tactic is the ability to forgive. You must continually be forgiving, or you will go nuts from all the hurt, pain and disappointment you constantly feel. The results can be that when you become an adult, this causes you to ignore red flags, or create excuses for people's bad behavior. In addition, when one is raised in a dysfunctional or abusive home, we develop a high tolerance for bad behavior. I was raised in a narcissistic home. And in a narcissistic home, one person is always singled out to be the scapegoat. And I was that one person. So I am talking from experience. Therefore, before they got married to their first wife, she was probably displaying many red flags and bad behavior. But these men kept ignoring them, and kept creating justifications for such behavior. As we get older, we realize that things will never get better. And that we cannot take this behavior any longer. And from being with our first wife, we know what we do not want. And this has also given us the education and experience to know and recognize a woman who would be a big problem in the future. Thus, after we got divorced and started dating again, we can now recognize all the red flags right away. This has contributed to women over 30 saying that they cannot find a good man. There are many good men over 30, but they can now recognize who is, and who is not a good woman, and many single mothers and divorced women are not good women. I have dated these types of women, and what saved me from all their lies, gaslighting and manipulation is the following. If she does something that you would never do, or respond in a way that you would not, then she is no good. So if you are unsure about the situation, not sure about what she did, if it does not make sense or is not logical regarding how she handled it, if it does not make sense or is not logical regarding how she responded, just ask yourself if it is something you would do. If the answer is no, then leave and not look back. If men did this more, then they would avoid marrying the wrong woman. To ensure that younger men understand what they are dealing with, I added a few rules to help them. Rule number 1. If you are dating and the relationship develops into a roller coaster ride, meaning that the relationship is good, then bad, hot, then cold, and very few calm moments, leave. Run. She is either emotionally or psychologically unstable. Or she is trying to manipulate you. And this is how the relationship will always be. Rule number 2. If most or all of her past relationships resulted in bad breakups, then this is how your relationship with her will probably end. As Mr. Kevin Samuels said, what is common with all of her relationships was her. And because most people do not go from one bad relationship to another, indicates that she is the problem. Rule number 3. They say that women argue with their emotions. This is not true. They went to high school. They went to college. They know how to think logically. We have to think logically every day to live. To work. To hold a job. If her arguments do not make sense, or you think she is gaslighting you, then this is the way the relationship will always be. We all make mistakes. We all have said and done stupid things, and we will do it again in the future. This brings me to rule number 4. How many mistakes or accidents can a person make before you realize it is intentional and on purpose? One of my ex-girlfriends would say that she is just naive. What she was trying to do was have an excuse for when she did something bad. This way it might not be so bad and we could get past what she did. Thus, she was attempting to create a ready-made justification for her bad behavior. Such as I was naive. I did not understand. I did not know what I was doing. I did not know what I was thinking. I was drunk. I was high, or stoned. One of the tricks people use is to do some good things for you, and then do some really horrible things, thus keeping you off balance. making you not realize that they are really your enemy. This brings me to rule number 5. As I already said, people make mistakes. And we all have said and done stupid stuff. However, is the mistake the other person made natural? Is it something you might have done yourself? But the most important is what they do afterward. Is how they handle it, something like the way you would handle it. Do they lie about it to other people? When people lie about what they did is an admission that they know what they did was wrong. If they did something that is right or okay, they do not mind telling others the complete truth. They usually want others to know about it. But when they do something that is wrong, they do not want anyone to know the truth. So, when a woman tells others that the man was possessive, controlling or abusive, and you think she is lying, she is no good. She will say the same stuff about you when you two break up. As Mr. Kevin Samuels always said, without a police report, you cannot believe them. In the United States, women do this to men all the time. And single mothers do this to the father of their baby. Especially if he is now in a relationship with another woman. She will play the victim and try and ruin your reputation. Anything to make herself look good to others. This brings me back to rule number 2. Which says if most or all of her past relationships resulted in a bad breakup, then this is how your relationship with her will probably end. She either keeps picking the wrong type of man, or she does not know how to act around a good decent man. Thus, the problem is her and will always be her. But she will always blame the man. Thus, she cannot be accountable for her actions, bad behavior or poor decision making. You find that many of these types of women were raised by single mothers, raised by bitter divorce women, or raised in a narcissistic home. And the ones that were raised in a narcissistic home were the golden child within the home. One more thing. In the United States, I heard that the divorce rate among lesbians is 74%. And from the lesbians I once knew. I believe it. This indicates that most of the time, the problem is not the man.